I am against anyone that will tell people in Lebanon or in Iran to give up their religion somehow just because I have some secularist ideas. No, no, no. This is the reason they're able to resist at this moment, and they should maintain it.
Hello and welcome to another Geopolitical Economy interview, a series in which I propose to interview prominent intellectuals, scholars, politicians, journalists, and other public figures to illuminate the fast-changing political economy and geopolitical economy of our times. I'm Radhika Desai, and you are watching Radhika Desai, Geopolitical Economist. I'm conducting today's interview in collaboration with Free Palestine TV, a community television station based in Lebanon, bringing you the latest news from the borders of Lebanon and Palestine, as well as special interviews with local thinkers and political leaders. If you like this interview and the other work we are doing, both my channel and Free Palestine TV, please like it, subscribe to both channels, and share the work widely. My guest today is Laith Marouf, founder of Free Palestine TV. Welcome, Laith.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Desai.
Oh, I'm so pleased to have you here, Laith, because you are such an intrepid, admirable, deeply committed progressive journalist, and you have played a variety of roles working in the media in Canada to begin with, including with various Indigenous, Quebec, and campus and diaspora Palestinian news media. Which you also then launched the program under the olive tree, and you had this broadcasting on many channels, many radio stations in Eastern Canada. Over the past decade and a half, you've also been reporting more or less exclusively about and from the West Asian region. You regularly appear on television, radio, including Radio Sputnik, Press TV, Al Mayadeen. You've also published with independent media such as Electronic Intifada, Mint Press, and many more. And of course, you are a winner of many awards for your very scrupulous and committed journalism. And of course, as many people will know, in Canada, and elsewhere for that matter, you've been persecuted for your support of Palestine. Most recently, you have started Free Palestine TV, and let me quote you on its objectives, I think, which our listeners would want to hear. You want Free Palestine TV to be able to fill a large gap in the media battle with the enemy at a time when it is difficult for our expatriate communities to defend our resistance without being subject to persecution or harm that amounts to imprisonment or even death. And in the absence of media supporting the resistance forces in the English language due to the ban in the West or the lack of media outlets that have live broadcasts from the front, we hope that you will support this promising and vital project, and so on. Laith, you are, as I said, such an admirable an activist journalist. You are committed not only to interpreting the world, but to changing it. So in this interview, I want to take advantage of your vast knowledge about the structures of power in the world and in the West Asian region, and the knowledge that you have gathered from a lot of on-the-ground work. You basically live there, you travel around the region, and so on. So let me start with a very simple background question. Where do you think the Iran war is at? As you know, we've heard about the recent developments with the United States seizing this, attacking this Iranian ship, trying to challenge Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, committing to a ceasefire, which it then proceeded to violate, claiming that there are going to be talks when Iran is basically saying there are no talks. So what is going on with the war in Iran as a whole? And then also, where is Lebanon placed in it, particularly given that Israel essentially marked or even celebrated the so-called non-ceasefire by attacking Lebanon comprehensively over a very short period of time, just when the ceasefire was supposed to take effect. So, yeah, if you could please enlighten us on those lines first.
Radhika, first I would say thank you very much for that flattering introduction. In terms of where we at with this ceasefire with Iran, I think it's coming to an end. It was clear from how this war started that the United States, the whole empire government from DC, has been unable to analyze the changes that are happening in the world in ways that they can adjust their tactical maneuvers to fit their strategic goal. And the strategic goal of the empire is to remain the sole hegemon in the world. And similarly, the strategic goal of the Zionist colony is to sustain that colony, to make it permanent. And given the changes that we saw over the last 10, 15 years in terms of, on the one hand, the democratization of military technologies with the introduction of drones and guided missiles that are cheap to produce, as well as the change that we saw in the media landscape with traditional media broadcasting becoming less relevant and social media becoming the main source of information for humanity, that also changed the battlefield of propaganda to make it more democratized, even though we have all those algorithmic manipulations and censorship that is happening. A flood of humans tweeting about, for instance, what's happening in Gaza is impossible to silence all that flood. You can manipulate it, but you cannot win that game of numbers. So those two things have made it impossible, I think, for the leadership in the imperial order to grasp what's happening. And therefore, they're making decisions, tactical maneuvers that will not help them achieve their goals. And the new emerging powers, whether we're talking about Iran and or collective human consciousness that have now uh, taken over, those are more fitting to the time. The people that are leading the military strategies and tactics of Iran know exactly what they have, know exactly their territory, what it is, knows exactly what their enemy is, and can judge much better. This is the reason that the Zionist and the empire as a whole are constantly falling into traps of protracted wars that they cannot win. And at the same time, their propaganda capabilities are weakening. They're unable to adjust their propaganda to fit this new time. And as we see when we look at the imperialist propaganda or the Zionist propaganda, it is very crude today. Growing up in the 80s, everybody knows the power of Hollywood at that time. Today, the crudeness of the propaganda that's coming out, for instance, from Trump's tweets and from the Zionist and imperialist camp, it's not because they don't know how to speak anymore. It's because they have realized that they've lost the overall propaganda war, and they are now just turning their propaganda cues towards the most base, most extreme population that is 100% on their side. So the use of sexualized and or genocidal language appeals to that base that is the last ones that are standing with the empire and Zionism in general. And now that's the kind of the bigger picture situation. Looking at the latest attacks on that ship in the Gulf of Oman, and that was a message to Iran that the United States doesn't want to continue negotiations. The United States used these 2 weeks to move as much more weapons and troops as it can to the region before return to full military activities. Similarly, the ceasefire that we saw here in Iran, quote unquote, sorry, in Lebanon, so-called ceasefire, is to try to, maneuver on the border here in Lebanon and to try to give some window for the collaborationist authorities here in Lebanon to do something that could help the Zionists. None of those things are going to happen in terms of change of the power balance on the ground or the trajectory of this war. And we will be back to the same thing that we saw 2 weeks before this ceasefire came into effect. And there will be increased collapse of American and Zionist power in the region because of this return to full military activities.
So, just a bit more on this background, can you say a little bit more about what's your perspective on why you think Trump started this war? And of course, why Netanyahu started this war? I mean, what exactly both were the kind of immediate triggers, but also underlying causes of this?
Yeah, I mean, because of, uh, you know, settler colonial projects cannot exist if there is a substantive population of indigenous people still alive and resisting. And it's been 100 years that the Palestinians refuse to surrender and continue to fight and also continue to birth. So even if we look back right now at the population within the territory of historic Palestine between the river and the sea, the Palestinians have returned to being the majority on the land. And this is what is forcing the Zionists to either admit that their project is over and accept equality, and or to go on a genocidal rampage to try to change the demographics reality here. And obviously that democratization of weapons that I was talking about, weapons technology, meant that also the Zionist colony has to try to defeat as fast as possible the axis of resistance, or the balance of power will be eternally skewed against them, right? So they have a very small window to try to expel and genocide the Palestinian population, defeat the whole Arabic peoples, and to defeat Muslims in general. And this is why they are acting in such a crazy, lunatic way, because the end is clear to them. Similarly, for the United States, it can see that there's a emerging multipolar world. Although its biggest competitors are China economically and Russia militarily, a multipolar world cannot exist just with China and Russia. China and Russia needs other partners, and the most crucial partner in a multipolar world will have to be centered in Western Asia. And right now, Iran is the only country in Western Asia that is not fully captured by the imperial power, and or partially, like Lebanon or Yemen, for instance, that are partially captured. So, the United States had no choice but to try to break Iran. Otherwise, the new multipolar world will include this Western Asian transportation and telecommunication and cultural hub that is the center of the world. And that is why the United States cannot allow that to happen. And this is why it's concentrating on defeating the axis of resistance before it even, confronts China and or Russia directly.
Um, Okay. I mean, I have to say my own view is slightly different in the sense that, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said, but I think that really Trump is in so much deep difficulty domestically and he's failing so badly on practically every front. His numbers are collapsing, his approval ratings are collapsing. And so I think that he needed some kind of foreign policy stunt that would somehow give him, rescue his electoral position in this critical midterm election year. And he tried his little escapade in Venezuela, didn't really work, didn't turn the numbers. So he was easily tempted by Netanyahu, who has his own reasons. Again, the long-term reasons that you mentioned are, of course, critically important, but also short-term reasons. Netanyahu unless he's at war, he's going to be removed as prime minister. He will face persecution for all sorts of corruption and other charges and so on. So to me, that's also part of the picture. But I agree with you that, of course, defeating the axis of resistance and, of course, taking on Russia, China, etc., is a very important part. And preventing the emergence of a multipolar world is an important part of the agenda. Now, there, I have a question. I mean, I guess I'll connect two questions. One is, you talked about the democratization of military technology. And if you could elaborate on that a little bit, because I'm not sure everybody quite understands fully what it means. And I think your understanding would contribute a lot to remedying that. And secondly, you talked about all these unwinnable wars that the United States gets involved in, but somehow Iran and the war on Iran is very different, and the war on the axis of resistance is very different from what happened in Libya or Syria or Iraq or what have you in the past. So if you can dwell on exactly what that difference is, because various people have said various things, but yeah, I think you made one very important point, which is that the Russia and China, if they need allies, they certainly need a critical ally in the West Asian region. Absolutely. And Iran is the only candidate there. But perhaps you may have other points to add to that as well.
Yeah, look, I know like about elections and electoral politics, but my opinion is that there is no such thing as democracy. That actually everything we talk about in terms of Trump and or Democrats, Republicans, that it's all theatrics, and that it was actually the imperial elite that put in Trump into position. He was necessary in their mind to bring the vicious, gangster face of the empire as the whole world started getting less and less scared of the empire. Okay, so I don't see Trump as actually making the decisions, and I don't think actually, uh, the elections in the US or Canada are actually fair. I think that's all fake. The numbers are fake. We can look at how, even the theatrics of taking down, for instance, Corbyn in the UK. I think he participated in that theatrics of destroying the hope. Corbyn himself is an agent of the system, for instance, in my mind, okay? And he purposefully destroyed the hope that people had, and the Labour Party purposefully destroyed itself and its electoral capabilities to get the conservative into power. So it's all a game in my mind. So I pay very little heed to that internal electoral issues in these countries. And one proof of that is that obviously the imperial machinations and plans didn't change with whoever was in power in the United States or in the Zionist colony. Every Zionist leader was a genocidal expansionist and continued the same path from 1948 till today. Similarly, the United States has been an imperialist, genocidal, racist country since its inception. Nothing changed. Okay. Now, when we talk about the democratization of military technologies, and how that is playing into the successes of the axis of resistance. Countries like Iraq or Libya or Afghanistan didn't have full military industries that could compete with the production of advanced weaponries like jets, fighter jets, and cruise missiles and aircraft carriers. Yes, Iraq had at some point manufactured missiles, Scud missiles, and what have you. Yes, Libya did that too, but they didn't have any full, um, defense strategy built on their own technological advances. I would say Syria lasted those 15 years of war on it because it was the most advanced technologically in terms of indigenous military technology development out of all of the other countries that fell. since 1990 under American bombardment. So that's one thing. The other thing about Iran is that it's a huge country. It has all the resources that it needs to be self-sufficient in terms of energy, in terms of food, in terms of industry. And it had decided to look at the capabilities of its enemies and look at its own geography and figure out a way to counter the military power of the West without having to match it in expenditures, right? And instead of producing fighter jets, it concentrated on developing drones. And as we see now, Iranian drones are the best in the world. The Russians are buying them, the Americans are copying them, the Europeans are copying them. Similarly, in terms of its missile defense capabilities, it accelerated its scientific discoveries and so forth. All of this adding to it that you have a huge population of almost 100 million, all these universities. Look at where the universities of Iran are. They're like number four, I think, globally in terms of patents being and discoveries coming out. This is a different category than every other country that was attacked by the United States over the last 30 years. So Iran had successfully understood its positionality and its capabilities and designed its defensive and military technologies to fit that reality.
Yeah, in fact, what you're saying makes me reflect, when sanctions were imposed, particularly on Russia. I mean, the United States has been imposing sanctions on all sorts of countries. I mean, look at Cuba, 70 plus years of sanctions and so on, Venezuela and whatnot. But with Russia in particular, people were talking about sanctions boomeranging in the sense that, sanctions seem to strengthen Russia instead of weakening it. And in a certain sense, I think militarily, I think in Iran's case, sanctions have boomeranged big time because, in a certain sense, when you impose such heavy sanctions, these maximum pressure sanctions, then countries like Iran, which are able to do this, they are kind of become completely self-sufficient and autonomous, not under the control of the West for any of their defense needs and so on. So in that sense, I think that sanctions on Iran have definitely boomeranged. And of course, they have been imposed in good part because of the alarmism of that Israel has raised about Iran developing nuclear weapons, blah blah, etc. So, I mean, that's quite fascinating. And you were also going to say how, I mean, Iran. So you think Iran is different from these other countries like Syria or Libya because it's kind of big, it's become more self-sufficient, etc., etc., and perhaps also because it was much more heavily sanctioned. So yeah, I mean, so then further to that, then how do you feel? Yeah, sorry, I wanted to say one thing about this, which is, coming to Lebanon, exactly. I also asked you, how is Lebanon placed in this war? I mean, what is happening there with the government, obviously saying that it's going to engage in talks with Israel? You said in an interview you gave quite recently with Chris Hedges, you said there is no state in Lebanon. So if you can explicate that a little bit, what has been the history? What is the history of Hezbollah in Lebanon? What gives it the staying power? Um, uh, 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 and what allows it to continue to operate and not be defeated by Israel's, at one level, much superior weapons and so on.
Yeah, so look, the state of Lebanon um, is as fabricated as every other state in Western Asia and the Zionist colony itself. Lebanon is just really part of the greater Syria region. It's the same culture, the same food, the same music instruments, the same accent. Maybe there's one dish that is like regional in a part of Lebanon, not only all of Lebanon. So, and it was chopped off from Syria to create a buffer, number one, for the Zionist colony, The hope that the French had was to create a Christian state that will collaborate with the Jewish colony. And similarly, when we look at the um, the history of the region here, we see that the borders of Lebanon currently kind of fit the borders of the Crusader states that were built by the Crusaders 1,000 years ago. So this is not a new idea that the West had in terms of how can we weaken and colonize Western Asia. Well, you need to cut off the coastal areas, create enclaves of minorities that will be at war with the rest of the population and thus create a buffer zone for Europe. This was even the plan that Napoleon had when he invaded Egypt. He said he wanted to move the Christian population of Egypt from the Sa'id, the south part of Egypt, to the coast. He wanted to move the Christians of Greater Syria to the coast, and then he wanted to populate Palestine with Jews to create a buffer of Semites constantly at war with the rest of the Semites, where war will not spill into Europe and the resources of the region will continually be disposed into this endless wars. Okay, so this is where what is the state of Lebanon today is a continuation of that plan, and it's not working for them, the imperialists. And since 1942, the government of Lebanon, whatever government was in charge, has never been able to secure the borders or have a monopoly over the use of force in the country. Therefore, there is no such thing as a state of Lebanon. And in terms of resistance in Lebanon to imperialist plans and occupation, it started since the 1920s, 1930s with the Syrian Social Nationalist Party, and then the assassination of their leadership by the French and the collaborationist regime. Then you had the Arab revolt across greater Syria, including the Palestinian revolt in the 1930s. Then you had the rise of the communist resistance with things like the PFLP and their defeat, and then the liberal resistance with the PLO and their defeat. And now we have, since 1984 and what have you, with the Muslim resistance. So the region has, you know, constantly resisted the realities of occupation in Lebanon and in Palestine, and constantly found different sources of inspiration for this resistance, whether it was Syrian unification, Arabic unification, communist, liberal, and now Muslim-based resistance.
I mean, yeah, that's also a very interesting chronicle that you're giving. Um, what do you see as the strengths of the Muslim resistance? Why do you think it seems to be succeeding where the other forms have failed? Did the other forms just come too early for their own good? Or is there something specific about not just Muslim resistance, but presumably there's also this Shiite aspect of it? Because if, you were saying that going back to Napoleon, there has been a European and Western desire to create this sort of buffer state, which will be a kind of a Christian state. But Christians are nowhere near a majority in Lebanon, are they? I mean, what the ethnic makeup seems to be majority Shia, if I remember correctly. But is that so?
Yeah, so when the French chopped off Lebanon from Syria, 50 somewhat percent of the population was Christian at that point. And they instituted this sectarian election and process and constitution that gives seats in the parliament according to the sect. And there's, by the way, 18 different sects, Christian and Muslim and so forth in the country, and each one of them has a reserved number of seats. But according to the
That's
1942
right, yes.
census, right? And today, Lebanon is 50 somewhat percent Shia, okay? And if there is a new census in the country, the number of seats in the parliament will change. And this is
Mhm.
why Lebanon hasn't had a census since 1942, and the government refuses to do because it will change the makeup of the parliament. And in that situation, just the Shia themselves will govern. So it will be Hezbollah and Amal. And of course, there's a lot of nationalist and patriotic parties like the SSNP, and the Nasiri movement and others that will align with the resistance bloc of the Shia, and they will have a absolute majority, probably like 75% of the seats in the parliament. This is why Lebanon is not allowed to have any changes in its constitution or its electoral laws. It's been decades that Hezbollah and other parties have been asking for, what do you call it, when you get representation according to percentage of
Representation by population. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, like in terms of getting how many seats you get in the parliament. It's not about ridings, but about how much percentage of the vote you get, and
Oh, I know. You mean proportional representation.
that's the
Yes,
word.
yes.
I blanked out
Yeah.
on it there for a second. Proportional representation, and the Christian supremacist and the imperialist aligned parties are refusing that.
Yes.
And what we've been seeing, for instance, in the last election,
And when
a
was the last election, if you wouldn't mind giving the date?
Yeah, so the last election was just before the war on Gaza and the genocide in Gaza started, and at that moment, one of the Hezbollah members of parliament got close to 200,000 votes to get his seat, while a imperialist lackey got 2,000 votes to get a seat. Okay, so this
Ah,
shows you how disproportionate the reality is, right? And so you have all these change candidates running for seats that are for one of the smallest of the 18 sects that are admitted by the Constitution in a very small riding and getting the same space as somebody that got 200,000 votes. Okay, so the country is in a way, this is why Hezbollah doesn't care about governing in the
yes,
country, because the state has no army to protect it or protect the borders or protect the people. The government cannot pass laws that even about picking up the garbage off the streets. So, in a way, Hezbollah taking over the government will be taking over a sinking ship, and the bigger picture, of course, in Hezbollah's mind is that it is a liberationist movement. Its aim is to defeat Zionism and imperialism. So holding on to a state will it make it forget its strategic goals of liberating
yes.
Palestine and what have you. And finally, you asked about Muslim political movements today. Why are they more successful? I think the core issue is that our enemy defines themselves as the Jewish state, defines themselves as the chosen people,
Yes.
says that God gave them this land, right? So even if me and you are communists, maybe, and or secularists, to deny that your enemy is coming to kill you in the name of their religion, and to just blame it all on capitalism and imperialism is a little bit delusional and denying reality just because of our secularist, let's say, positionality. And, you know, the conviction that somebody has when they are, falling back to religion and to, theological sources and to God is much stronger than the conviction of somebody who's just thinking about it in a secularist way. And this is, and it doesn't mean like, I just want to be very clear that all the Arabic and Muslim peoples in the region, when they were resisting, they didn't want to fall back to religion. They didn't want to allow the Zionists to claim that they're speaking in the name of Judaism, because Judaism is our theological heritage. We love Moses. He is our prophet. We are his descendants. Okay, so we didn't want to.
As is Isa. I mean, Isa and Musa are both prophets in Islam. Yes.
Yes, so much of the beginnings of resistance to the Zionist project was the Arabic and Muslim peoples denying that this is a religious war. But our enemy didn't allow us to have that become a reality, and our enemy, forced us into this, and we cannot deny it. So at this moment, when we see the people in Gaza that are in an extermination camp, resisting and falling back to God and saying, "Thank you, God, for everything that you give me, including this genocide." You cannot but be impressed by this. You cannot but see that as a source of, a well of resistance, an anchor for resistance, something that makes people persevere. Similarly, here with the Shia population in Lebanon, in Iran, falling to the mythological stories of, let's say, Hussein resisting the army of Umayyah, the Umayyad emperor,
In
knowing that,
Karbala, yeah.
yes, and the Battle of Karbala, and knowing that he and the descendants, the family of Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, are going to be slaughtered, choosing to still, die with dignity than become a slave. Those are important sources of inspiration to resistance under overwhelming oppression. And so, no, I will never, even if I am a secularist, I will never deny the Shia the right to fall back to these stories to find inspirations of resistance. In fact, I am against anyone that will tell people in Lebanon or in Iran to give up their religion somehow just because I have some secularist ideas. No, no, no. This is the reason they're able to resist at this moment, and they should maintain it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is really so interesting because, on the one hand, you have, I mean, in a certain sense, I think that it's not so much that people are falling back on religion. Perhaps they are bringing religion along with them to help them to do what they are doing now, perhaps modernizing it in ways that I don't really know about. Maybe you do, but somebody else does. There's a fair bit of fairly modern 20th and 21st century theology going on in Iran, as far as I know. I sometimes read about it. But on the one, so what has happened on the other side, however, in the Western side, is that the Westerners, the West generally, has cynically, manipulatively created essentially a theocratic state of Israel, but in the process has reduced Judaism in all its dignity, glory, and all those things to something which is far more, which is contemptible, which is Zionism. Meanwhile, in Western countries, I mean, the secular leaderships, although, of course, in the United States, you have again a peculiar combination of secularism and very instrumental religion. So you listen to Pete Hegseth, and for him, like, he's just trying to use the language of religion in order to incite whatever little support base he's got left. But clearly, their relationship with religion is quite instrumental. Meanwhile, and in fact, it plays no role in governing their conduct in any serious way, in the way whereas, for example, in Iran, you have a fatwa against nuclear weapons because they are regarded as such a terrible weapon. There is no such restraint on the part of the Americans. There is no constraint or restraint in terms of bombing civilians, not just in Iran. They have done that all over the world. And this brings me to the Epstein thing, that the venality, the corruption, the degradation of the leadership of these countries is apparent in this Epstein thing. And, a lot of people would say that the threat of exposure, with the Epstein files is one of the reasons why Trump started this war, and possibly Netanyahu as well. So, you have such a clear contrast. And I always say that, you know, I mean, I'm a secularist as well as anyone else, or as well as a lot of other people, but I don't have what I call the Richard Dawkins view of religion, that if you believe that you are a nutcase, I think Marx was much more profound about religion. When he said religion is the opium of the people, he was speaking of a time when opium was a medicine. And he said it is the heart of a heartless world, the soul of soulless conditions, and so on. So that, he understood that it plays some sort of a progressive role. So, yeah, I mean, I just thought maybe I'd share those thoughts with you.
Yeah, look, sometimes people outside our region of the east and south of the Mediterranean cannot recognize the history that we had here, our people and our ancestors with Europe, and how it is actually crucial to the formation of European identity. Everybody may have read Edward Said talking about Orientalism, and talking about the Arabic peoples and their ancestors being the first other, that Europeans can format their identity as a counter to. That's one thing. But the other thing is that we had in this relationship of around 6,000 years, constant invasion from Europe into our region, not only to colonize and loot the resources, but to also colonize and loot the culture. And so the Aramaic alphabet, the Canaanite alphabet, being looted and becoming the Greek alphabet, and then the Roman Latin alphabet, the Canaanite pantheon of gods being looted and turned into the Greek pantheon and then the Roman pantheon, and eventually the looting of Judaism. And, by the time uh, Christ was born, 10% of the population within the Roman Empire were Jewish, and Caesar's mother was Jewish. Okay, and then eventually the looting of Christianity and the moving of its cultural or theological center from Jerusalem to the Vatican. So what we see is that a constant relationship of European civilizations trying to loot the culture and the theology of the eastern and south of the Mediterranean, the Arabic peoples and their ancestors, and then to come back to those people and say, I know how to interpret your own religion better than you.
Yeah.
Okay? So when we look at Zionism, it is the same concept. Here is European, descendants of converts to Judaism coming to the region where Judaism is birthed, and the peoples that are descendants of the true Jewish original peoples, telling them, we know what Judaism is, and you have to admit that this is the interpretation of Judaism. Similarly, right now, what we see with Hegseth and Trump, sparring with the Pope. I mean, the Pope himself is telling the original Christians that you don't know what Christianity is. You have to hear it from the Vatican. Well, now we have Washington, D.C. telling the Vatican, you don't know what Christianity is. We know it better. So this is kind of the eternal battle that we have because of the curse of being the first other and the first contact that the European had outside their territory. About Epstein, uh, you know, um, it reminds me what is happening right now in the United States, and maybe some of our academic listeners would understand this. It reminds me of the Tristat of Ibn Khaldun. And in my mind, Ibn Khaldun is the essential social scientist that of societal psychology and so on. And in his thesis, he says that the rise, he traced the rise and fall of dynasties, states, and empires. And his a very simple theory, and it's applicable. It's impossible to deny it. So he says, let's say a family, a dynasty. How does it start? A guy comes from, or a woman comes from nothingness, okay, and fights her way or his way up to the apex of whatever field that they're in, and reaches glory and the maximum. This children, daughters, sons, they didn't live the effort of reaching that goal, but they've watched it happen. So they can maintain it. They can't push it further, but they can maintain it. Okay, so, and by the third generation, they didn't live it and they didn't see it happen, and the decline begins. So this is the same thing about empires, right? So the first generation of the US empire was the end of World War II, the World War II generation. They won, they took over all the Western imperial holdings, and they became the empire. The second generation, we saw with the Reagan era and so on, maintained the power. Soviet Union collapses, the third generation comes in, and there the collapse begins. Another part of that theory that Ibn Khaldun was talking about, and I think this is where the Epstein class comes in, is that, he talks about how in the beginning of the rise of a dynasty or a state or an empire, there is ultra masculinity, right? So you're hungry, you want to fight, you want to take it out, you are the starving hordes at the edges of the empire, right? And by the third generation, you have the ultra femininity happening. Of course, I know this is sometimes problematic when we speak about these things with.
Well, I think you might say effeminacy, which is a different word from femininity.
Yes,
It's, but yes.
feminist, right?
Mhm.
So the imperial core becomes so comfortable that it becomes obsessed with its feelings and with its sexuality, right? So everything becomes about pleasure. And instead of writing poems about resistance and the glory of rise and so on, you talk writing poems and making movies about sexual pleasure, okay? And that obsession of what's happening between their legs and how are they getting the pleasure in which way, right? So the Epstein class rise now to the forefront is normal in
Yeah.
such a sense of decline of empire and the imperial, extra pleasure that is happening at the center, far away from the hordes that are hungry at the edges.
But I see it much more as less as a fable about families' rise and decline, and more as a story which is about capitalism and its decline. But I think that both are certainly very instructive to think about. Let me bring us back a little bit to the war, which I think all these resources of religion, and by religion is not really about God, it's about communities. And I think that it is I mean, God is the community at the end of the day, if you ask me. But and it is clearly providing the social glue and the driving force in many ways, to advance this resistance that Iran and the axis of resistance are providing. So, Iran some weeks ago put forward these 10 points, which are very powerful, and Trump even said that these 10 points are acceptable, which is astonishing, given that they involve, for instance, the US essentially leaving the region. Israel committing itself to some kind of non-aggression commitments, which, as you rightly pointed out, is congenital. I mean, it is just not possible for Israel to do that and continue to exist. So, really, how do you see this war unfolding? Do you think, and a lot of people are saying, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if the war stopped tomorrow? But I'm not sure that it's going to stop tomorrow, given the way things are going. So how do you see things unfolding, and how do you think they might end?
Yeah, this is an ongoing war for a century right now, from World War I up until now. For us here, it never stopped. This is the latest phase of it, but in a way, we have reached the pinnacle, okay, of this war in terms of what can the imperialists do without dragging humanity into a nuclear winter. So the threat of Trump saying he's going to erase the Iranian civilization, meaning he's going to use a nuclear weapon, um, and his retreat from that point, it marks the beginning of the retreat. This is the maximum reach of imperial expanse, and from this point on, it's retreat. Similarly, the genocide that we saw happening in Gaza and the ethnic cleansing that we're seeing happening in Lebanon mark the maximum power projection possibility for the Zionist colony, and it's going to start retreating from now. Does that mean that the war will be over in a minute or two? Does that mean that the Zionists and the imperialists will just abandon their projects and leave? No. It just means that from this point on, the Zionists and the imperialists will suffer more than we do. Okay? And with every day passing and with every battle coming, they will suffer even more than us suffering. Okay? And we can see that how the economic beginnings of the economic collapse as a result of the blockades of the Hormuz have started, bringing, images of poverty and mass hunger in Western capitals that are usual for us in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and that's going to become more and more a reality as the more and more the empire entrenches itself in this losing war. I think we will be back in the next few days to full confrontation, military confrontation, and we will see Iran and the axis of resistance using weapons that they haven't used yet, using pressure points like, for instance, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait being closed that could accelerate the collapse of imperial power projection in global capitalist economies. So this is what I think, and of course, there will be an acceleration of massacres committed by the empire and the Zionist colony just to make up for their military losses, as they have shown us every time they lose militarily on the battlefield, they commit some horrific massacre. So I expect that to be also happening simultaneously.
Well, I think that this is a great summation. I think obviously a sobering one, because clearly every life that's lost is a tragedy. But I think what you say is very credible. I don't think that the United States, I mean, Trump has been looking for an off-ramp for a long time. He hasn't yet found one that will do for him. So, so on this sobering assessment, I think let's bring this conversation to an end, but hope also that this will be the first of many. I look forward to talking with you again, Laith. Thank you so much to those who are listening to this collaboration between my channel, Radhika Desai, Geopolitical Economist, and Laith's channel, Free Palestine TV. Please like both channels, subscribe, and share widely if you like this interview. Thank you and goodbye.